Welcome to History Explained, where we illuminate the past to better understand our present. I'm your guide to your daily journey through the past to empower the future. Today is Thursday, July 24, 2025. As we do every Thursday, we're exploring a fascinating cultural practice from history that continues to influence our world. Today, we turn our attention to the Renaissance art patronage system, a cultural institution that transformed European art and society between the 14th and 16th centuries. Wealthy families, particularly the Medici of Florence, revolutionized how art was created, funded, and displayed, establishing patterns of cultural influence that persist today. What makes Renaissance patronage particularly significant is how it created a new relationship between art, power, and society. Patrons didn't simply buy art, they shaped entire artistic movements, supported revolutionary techniques, and used cultural projects to project political and social influence across Europe. So let's explore this transformative cultural system, examining how patronage worked, the motivations behind it, and its lasting impact on art, culture, and society. The Renaissance patronage system emerged from the unique political and economic conditions of 14th and 15th century Italy. Unlike the centralized monarchies of Northern Europe, Italy was divided into independent city-states competing for power, wealth, and prestige. This competition created opportunities for wealthy families to gain influence through cultural investment. The most famous patrons were the Medici family of Florence, who ruled the city for much of the Renaissance period. Beginning with Cosimo de' Medici in the early 15th century, the family used art patronage as a tool of political legitimacy and social control. By commissioning magnificent works of art, they demonstrated their wealth while presenting themselves as benevolent leaders devoted to their city's glory. Patronage worked through a complex system of relationships between artists, patrons, and society. Artists depended on wealthy sponsors for both financial support and social protection. In return, patrons gained prestige, political influence, and often religious merit through their cultural investments. The system created a symbiotic relationship that encouraged artistic innovation while serving broader social and political purposes. The Catholic Church remained a major patron throughout the Renaissance, commissioning works for churches, monasteries, and papal residences. However, secular patronage grew increasingly important as wealthy merchants, bankers, and noble families sought to display their status through artistic commissions. This shift allowed artists to explore new themes beyond traditional religious subjects. Patronage extended far beyond simply paying for finished works. Wealthy patrons often supported artists' entire careers, providing workshops, materials, and living expenses while the artists developed their skills. The Medici, for example, established academies where promising artists could study classical texts, anatomy, and mathematical principles that informed Renaissance art. The system also encouraged artistic experimentation and innovation. Patrons competed to commission the most impressive and technically advanced works, pushing artists to develop new techniques like linear perspective, oil painting, and anatomical accuracy. This competition drove the rapid artistic developments that defined the Renaissance. Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, exemplified the Renaissance patron. He supported artists like Michelangelo, Botticelli, and Verrocchio while also fostering humanist scholars and poets. His court became a center of intellectual and artistic activity that influenced culture throughout Europe. The patronage system created a new social status for artists. Medieval craftsmen had been viewed as skilled laborers, but Renaissance artists gained recognition as intellectuals and creators. Patrons like the Medici elevated artists' social standing by treating them as court advisors and cultural ambassadors rather than mere servants. Patronage also served important political functions. Magnificent artistic commissions demonstrated a patron's power and legitimacy to both subjects and rival cities. The Sistine Chapel ceiling, commissioned by Pope Julius II, projected papal authority throughout Christendom. Similarly, the Medici used public art projects to reinforce their control over Florence. The system spread beyond Italy as other European rulers recognized art's political value. The French kings, beginning with Francis I, imported Italian artists and established their own patronage systems. The Habsburgs in Spain and Austria, the Tudors in England, and various German princes all adopted Renaissance patronage models. Renaissance patronage transformed artistic production from individual craftsmanship to collaborative enterprises. Major projects involved teams of artists, architects, and craftsmen working under a master's direction. This workshop system allowed for more ambitious projects while training new generations of artists in Renaissance techniques. The cultural impact extended beyond art itself. Renaissance patrons supported humanist scholars who recovered and translated classical texts, contributing to the intellectual revolution that accompanied artistic change. Libraries, universities, and academies flourished under patronage, creating centers of learning that influenced European thought for centuries. However, the patronage system also created dependencies and limitations. Artists relied on wealthy sponsors' continued favor, which could be withdrawn for political, personal, or financial reasons. This dependency sometimes constrained artistic freedom, as patrons expected works that reflected their values and interests rather than pure artistic vision. The decline of the patronage system began in the 17th century as economic and political changes reduced the power of traditional patrons. The rise of art markets, public exhibitions, and middle-class collectors gradually replaced the personal relationships between individual patrons and artists that had characterized Renaissance culture. Modern cultural institutions like museums, foundations, and arts councils evolved from Renaissance patronage models. Today's corporate sponsorship of cultural events, government arts funding, and private collecting all trace their origins to the relationships between Renaissance patrons and artists. The Renaissance patronage system demonstrates how cultural production depends on social and economic structures. The artistic achievements we celebrate today emerged from specific historical conditions that made ambitious cultural projects possible while serving the political and social needs of Renaissance society. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of Renaissance art patronage. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our Economic Milestones episode where we'll be examining the establishment of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund after World War II. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how modern cultural patronage compares to Renaissance models. Until next time, I'm your guide for History Explained, where we believe that understanding yesterday is the key to navigating tomorrow.